Guess you wonder where I've been.
Welcome back to the Archivists. I'm Saint.
I'm Rave.
And today we have our guest with us, Mina. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Mina Hasan. I'm a content creator, college student, and also a pretty good friend of Saints for the past year or so. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So thank you for agreeing to come on. We're very happy. So you mentioned you're like content creator kind of influencer thing. Do you want to tell us about what you got going on and everything?
Yeah, sure. So I have been a content creator for the past almost it's going to be 4 years in December. I started when I was a senior in high school when I was 17 years old at the end of 2019, and I've just kind of been keeping the ball rolling up until now. And going further into that, we can only be a content creator for so long. I started a new small business endeavor, my watch brand called the Kismet Reserve. Um, Starting off as like a reselling vintage watch brand and hopefully turning it into something bigger, just a brand that is representative of people like me and people who look up to me. And yeah.
Would you say you're more on like the creative social media side or like the business kind of side of things?
I think that I started off as someone who was more in the creative side. When I started social media, it was just really fun. It was more for shits and giggles. And growing up, especially in such a kind of transformative or more in my more formative years, from kid to adult, high school to almost end of college now, I've had to take on the business side too. So I'd say nowadays I'm pretty like a healthy mix of both. And as a one-woman team, I have to be.
That one woman team, it's a lot to have on just one person.
Yeah.
A lot of respect for that.
Thank you. I'm just a girl.
Yeah. I mean, like even with like my page and like even the podcast, my page I can handle by myself, but like the podcast I would not be able to handle by myself. So like we have like a team of like 4 people, soon to grow, but kudos to you.
That's so exciting. I hope to get a team at some point down the line with this venture, but for now it has to be one woman. And with college, life, just being a girl, it's like I don't know how I'm still standing up on my 2 feet, but here we
Yeah.
are.
When you said that you started out on like the more creative side, um, how was like your approach to creating content different then versus like now?
So back when I started creating content on TikTok was when TikTok was still deemed really corny. No one wanted to be on it. If you were on it, it was weird. Um, but the vibe of TikTok in that era was like it was either you were doing comedy or you were doing dance videos. So I leaned more into doing comedy and kind of poking fun at my identity in a lighthearted way, but also in a way that people could relate. And because of that, it kind of created like a little community of people onwards to being a more larger community of people that kind of resonated with me and put me as like a pinnacle of like brown relatability. I don't know how I ended up there, but that's how I started up there. And nowadays, the past few years have kind of been a rebrand. As social media has been evolving, I figured out that I have to as well in order to not only stay relevant, but to monetize myself. Most of the people I started off with in social media, like kind of on like that South Asian TikTok, Muslim TikTok, we were all in the same niche and they don't, I see that they're not monetizing anymore because they didn't evolve with
Yeah.
social media trends. And I'm really grateful that I made the switch. So now my content has more of like a creative aesthetic touch to it. I would like to think so, but still tastefully putting in my own identity, my own experiences, but as a South Asian Muslim woman in the space.
It's cool, yeah. I remember when TikTok first came out, like you said, literally just dancing or like comedy skit kind of videos. Um, and it was just like hard to do anything else. And like when you look at TikTok now, it's like drastically different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even with like now there's like archive pages and like they do really well on TikTok too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, social media overall has like a weird kind of read for data and analytics. And I feel like anyone who has a page is really good at reading when they need to like do a switch or like adapt their content to like keep like their account alive and keep their like I guess like themselves more relatable
Mm-hmm.
to the consumer.
And that kind of goes back into what we were talking about, like the business side of things when it comes to social media. Like as a one-woman team, if you've been in this kind of industry for a while, you learn to pick up on when it's time to make a switch, when it's time to tweak your
Yeah.
social media to stay in the loop, stay relevant, grow, etc.
Yeah. It's like super I feel like archive pages is like a concentrated version of like reading learning how to read like data and analytics because like you don't have to focus on anything else and you just have to focus on like the data and analytics. You don't really have to create the content yourself. You don't really have to like do anything that you know um I don't know how to explain it. The word is like not coming to mind, but you know what I mean.
I mean, you guys have a lot. You guys have some lengthy captions. I applaud you guys for
Oh
doing that
yeah,
because my brain does not work
a
that
lot.
way. I can't do I can't do that. So kudos to you guys.
It's chat gpt.
LOL.
Yeah,
It's all chat
I
gpt.
I don't like using ChatGPT. I feel like you can tell a lot of the time, and yeah, I feel like archiving is a lot different than creating, you know, content like original content because it's already made for us. We just got to bring attention to it. The most we have to do are those captions, really,
Mhm.
and just make sure that what we're posting panders to the algorithm. So it's not, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. And like obviously like on my mains like explore page and everything, what I see is totally different content. I see stuff where it's like towards content creators on how to read the algorithm and the advice they give to, that type of page is totally different than like what archive pages try to do.
Wait, I'm curious about how the advice was different.
It's like more towards like the content of the reel or
Mm.
like how
For what?
aesthetic or like how to like shoot your photos or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Advice for creative like influencers, you mean?
Yeah, influencer.
Okay. So I know a couple of influencers, and in speaking to them, they explain a lot of the time how they need to make sure that their content aligns in some way with the algorithm, but it can't be what everyone else is doing. So a lot of content creators, they rely on like the remix strategy. So they'll take something that's already been done and like do it in their own way. So there always needs to be some aspect of originality when it comes to content creation, I feel like. But at the same time, you need to know how to work the algorithm, how to manipulate it, if you will. So yeah, I completely understand like what do you mean by that?
I always appreciate those like advice reels a lot, but I feel like when you take some of that advice, you have to take it with like a grain of
Grain of
salt
salt. Yeah.
because there's only like there's a boundary to which you can keep like trying to blow up and manipulate the algorithm. I'm sorry if
Yeah.
you hear my laundry in the background. Um,
No, it's okay.
but like this, it's kind of been a hard lesson for me to learn too, that sometimes like not every piece of content you create
It's gonna blow up.
is gonna blow up, and it shouldn't
Yeah.
always be meant for blowing up. It like you should still be making content that you enjoy, even if it's not guaranteed a million views. So I
Yeah.
think it's just like finding that balance, which is really important.
Now with archive pages, because it's becoming a little oversaturated, um, and like everyone's tired of seeing the same thing, the same format, the same whatever. There are people who are going ahead and like changing it. So like we had a guest on, his name's Axe Exploration, and he like edits all the photos on top of just like creating the caption. So it's like his is kind of that in between of content creation and archive pages. But that's kind of just like a thought that I thought was interesting.
It's very interesting.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I wanted to ask, as like a your side of social media, when you have like when you're networking and like kind of like growing, how do you do it? I'm like curious if it's like different.
What do you mean, like networking, like connecting with other influencers, or?
Do you guys have like group chats and like all just like sit and talk and like
Oh, hell
connect?
no. Oh God, no.
Didn't you mention something about group chats before? And you were like, yeah.
Influencer chats are the most like conniving, rude, ruthless things you will ever be put in, and I refuse to be
I've been
in.
in one as like a consumer. It was so bad. It was honestly, I think, the biggest mistake of my life, like
They, it's
digitally.
it's shady. Like you would think that everyone in the group chat is like gonna help you. Like some people, they want PR contacts, like which is fair. Everyone wants PR contacts. Like that's how we get
Yeah.
stuff. And like some people will be like, yeah, like I have an Aritzia PR contact. Like I get free things from Aritzia. And then people will be like, "Oh, what's the email?" And then she'll just read it and like not respond. And it's like, "Okay, did you just want to
So
flex?" Like I'm so
if it was
confused.
just trying to one up everyone.
And like I've noticed with like archive pages, you guys kind of find each other in like your own community. Like you guys have your own group and like you have it's like a friend bubble almost. You guys are
Yeah.
there to help each other out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally try not to be friends with other influencers um because one, it's in your mind it's always like kind of competition. It's always like a game or something. And two, it's just you never really know like who's kind of like if you send someone a piece of content and they'll be like, "Yeah, it's good." You don't know if there's really any truth behind that because it's a
Yeah.
backstabbing industry in my opinion from my experiences.
That
I think it's good to be a solo team when it comes to influencing and content creating.
Do you ever find yourself like wanting somebody to manage any of like the technical aspects of it, or at least to help you in some way? Like, I don't know how to explain it. Not like a manager, but more like, well, yeah, I guess like a manager, kind of. Just to have somebody be like, hey, like, you could do this, like, give you ideas, that type of thing, or no?
I mean, the idea, like it's nice in theory to have someone be like, "Oh, you're doing like this could be improved, this could like be better," but um I feel like when you have a social media manager, and I've seen this with like a lot of other people and like all those advice reels that you get, they kind of just morph each influencer or content creator into the same person. I feel like there's a level or like a niche of influencers, like the low exposure, 5-second reels, like
Yeah.
standing in the middle of the street, whatever. Like I feel like there's an oversaturated niche, and a lot of social media managers will put you in there because it's always guaranteed to blow up, but there isn't really like,
It won't like grow a loyal like community.
yeah, like if you look like everyone else, then what makes you different? Like I'm not gonna remember you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like, yeah, it's gonna be harder to like grow on your own, but everything is hard. And if you have someone
You've
hold
done
you
a good job though. You're like, are you over
Yeah.
100K?
on Instagram, yeah. And like, you know, I've been doing this for 4 years, and like, yeah, I'm not at 1 million followers. I know some people grow 1 million in
Faster
like a
than
matter of
others, yeah.
months. But over the past few years, I've grown like I'll get like in New York, I'll get stopped and be like, I know you from TikTok, or you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Bro, that one interaction where we were just like sitting in the cafe and the came up, I felt like, bro, what did I do? Like, she's like, not you, her. I'm like,
Oh, I remember you told me this.
damn.
yeah, like so it's cool. It's like even though I don't have a huge following, like people still know who I am, and clearly I have enough of an influence with 100K followers for people to buy my watches rather than someone with 1 million followers who doesn't actually have like influence or pull for someone
Yeah.
to like buy something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
So would
think
you say like without a manager, like honestly, like as a one woman team, you have like more of a wide
Freedom.
varied skill set than like most influencers. Because you're not only like managing and reading the analytics of your page, but you're also like videoing, editing all your content, and at the same time you just started like reselling watches. So
even though it is stressful, I think having more autonomy and more freedom, like you said, it helps you in the long run. So that in the long run, if I do get a manager, I'll know if someone is like screwing me over or if they really want the best for me. But if I was still kind of new at this and like had blown up overnight and people want to manage me, I probably wouldn't have like the foresight to see where my account will go with a manager's advice. So I think being on your own for a while does give you the skill set to grow and grow further. But um and like after gaining those skills is when a manager can be an option, because at that point you just want a manager to just take the stress off, you know?
that's so interesting. I guess I never really paid like attention to like the different sides of media and like what really went into them. Because with like archive pages, that's like totally different. It's like the more help you can get, you would take because you already know like the people who are willing to help you, they already have like good intentions. So
Yeah.
that's
I
Well,
think
I wish I could say the same.
Hmm.
uh
I was thinking that that's the reason for that is probably because within the archive community, it's focused on your art, right? Whereas
Mm.
when you're an influencer, it's a lot to do with you, your face, your brand, that type of thing. So it's a more like personal thing. So people, like you were talking about competition, like people immediately see you as competition. They don't see you as, they don't see your art, they don't see what you're making, right?
Oh,
So
that's true.
within the archive community, like we as people who are archiving, we're not the face of anything, right? So I feel like that's like a key difference, which is probably the reason for it. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I'm sure there are people within the archive community that are trying to take advantage of you. Like, you know, I know we've encountered
Oh
some.
yeah, no, 100%.
You've encountered some. You've told me. So I feel like it's just easier within the archive community, though, overall. But
That's true. Do you think like anonymity, being anonymous, helps?
I think it
Like,
does. I think it helps when you're trying to focus on art. But we talk about goals and motivation a lot of the time, and it really just depends, like where you trying to go? Like what are you just focused on art? Like is that all you care about, or you like the influencing part? Because some people, a lot of people actually, they don't care about any of the negative parts of influencing. They just like doing it. And that's, it's up to the individual. But I do think it depends on the individual, because some people, they're just, I've had some of my friends tell me, like they're just not cut out for influencing, and they just want to, be photographers. Like they're like, I don't want my face in any of this. I don't want to make, this into a personal brand, because I just can't maintain that kind of image that people want to see,
oh yeah, it's like a whole skill set by itself when you're like revealing your face, especially when you have like over 100,000. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like also nowadays, like the influencing has kind of been diluted almost because everyone kind of thinks about like the low barrier to entry, and then they just take that at face value and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
like this is so easy, I can blow up within days, whatever. And then they do it, and then they're stuck in that like 200 view range on TikTok, and it's like, oh, this is actually not as easy. It's like not easy to be like what Alex Earl or whatever other influencer has blown up. I think like the meaning behind, I wouldn't say influencing, but more the meaning behind like content creating has been diluted. Just because people are starting to take it more as like a joke than a job. That's why, when people are like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, I do social media, like, because
They
it's
think you're
cringy to
just
say,
like,
because people
yeah.
are like, they just think you're a pretty face that like lip syncs to music, and it's like, no, I'm trying to be representation. I think the ability to just capture one's attention and keep it for the entirety of a video or for at least half of the video is a very
Watch time,
important
right?
skill set. Like, you guys have like mostly like archiving is mostly like images, right? And like a caption to go behind it. And I feel like, you see that on the explore page, like you caption, like people click the image because it's cool and then they see the caption.
Mm-hmm.
But with like a video, like we see on TikTok all the time, you know, the videos we look at versus the videos we scroll past. For me, when I see a video, like if it doesn't have like a lot of likes and the title or caption or whatever isn't enticing enough, I'll scroll past it. And I feel like it's those little things. And and if it's also someone that I don't recognize, I like I'm like pulled even further away from it.
Yeah.
But it's like all those little things that you gain in your skill set as being like a content creator that you have to kind of master and think about every time you post something.
Do you think like in that medium, self-awareness not only to yourself but like to your content and how other people view your content is like kind of a skill set as well that kind of develops over time, or am I thinking too much about it?
I feel like in order to succeed on social media, like your self-awareness has to have like almost kind of bounds to it. Like you should have the self-awareness to not say stupid shit on social media, but you should also have a boundary where you aren't overthinking every single piece of content you're putting out, um, based on like what other people will think about it, because then you're just gonna go into a black hole convincing yourself that everything you post is cringy
Hmm.
Yeah.
and justifying it by using self-awareness.
It's funny.
Sometimes we have to post cringy shit. I'm sorry.
There's a key difference between making content to blow up and then making content that you're pandering to the algorithm, but it's truly something that you care about and you curated, right?
Oh,
And
like
it's funny
follow
because, yeah,
versus.
so I noticed most people can tell when you're trying to blow up. Like that's why there's a term called like TikTok music, because there's usually just one hook that's catchy and the rest of the song is ass. And even when it comes to influencers, the difference between like a successful influencer and an influencer that's just, trying to blow
There's
up
still
is, yeah, it's just that one person is trying to blow up and then the other person is just influencing people on things that they really care about.
Do you guys think that success necessarily means blowing up?
I don't think so.
I
No,
have some
no.
insight on this I want to share.
It also depends, because like
Yeah, we
success
talked about.
for an archive page doesn't necessarily mean blowing up, but it means getting recognized by the right people, and sometimes you need a
Exactly.
few posts to blow up to do that.
It's like success is subjective in most ways and then objective in a couple ways, but it depends on context always. And this is something that we
That
mentioned, I
was
think,
so smart.
in you like
That sentence
you like
sounded-
that. See,
sorry.
You gotta click that. I don't know how to articulate myself, but what I'm trying to say is that success is subjective and it's as you define it, depending on who you are, what you're doing, etc. So, like she was saying, for people who are archiving, success is kind of objective in the sense that like you're well known in the community. That's kind of like you're viewed as a successful archive page. But as an individual, some people just, that's not what they want. They just want to make the right connections. They're not trying to be popular,
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
How do you define success when it comes to money? Like blowing up doesn't always mean that you're successful, that you made it. You can have 1 million followers and no one will know you in a room.
Yeah.
Which is, I
That's
think,
true.
the craziest part about social media and why I kind of stopped caring about the number of followers. Like, I've kind of been stunted for the past year at the same number, but clearly, like, it's not dead if the watches are continuing to sell out each time. Like, there are still people.
And that's
That-
what I.
Though.
What'd you say?
Your watches sell out within minutes.
I know.
Yeah, that's crazy, mashallah.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I've been meaning to buy one. I just haven't had the chance to like catch the drop, but hopefully next
Yeah.
time if you're having a new one soon.
Saturday.
Okay.
This Saturday?
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday. Wow.
Like indefinitely?
Yeah. For the
do you
foreseeable.
think with like the Kismet Reserve, because you're starting to like find and resell, because I know if I was to do something like that, the part that I'd enjoy the most is finding and not like the reselling
Yes.
part.
Yeah.
Do you like the finding
There
part?
is such like gratification in just pressing a purchase button or putting your card in at like like the POS system or whatever at thrift stores. Like, it's just that instant gratification of like you get to buy something and I get to savor it for like a week, and then but I'm not hoarding it, and then I make the money back and then I give it to someone who will enjoy it even more. So
Do you think reselling is like a big thing in your future?
I think that because I've made such a name with myself with the watches, I see myself doing this for a while, and I want to grow the Kismet Reserve into a bigger brand, delving into more than just watches, maybe like retail, like clothing, decor, etc. Like, everyone needs like that stepping stone to get into the industry and like build their community. And
Yeah.
I chose one with that resonates with my personal brand and also has a very low barrier to entry.
Do you think a lot of like influencers kind of go to that route where they like find something to use as a stepping stool to get into their own brand? Because I know some people do makeup, other people might do like selling like art supplies or like their art or whatever.
I think that a lot of influencers go that route, but I think why most of them are really unsuccessful, even with celebrities, is that they all choose something that doesn't make sense towards their brand. Like when some random celebrities come out with like makeup lines.
Mm.
And they're
Yeah.
like, it's like, okay, yeah, like you have a pretty face, but I don't like, why are you delving into makeup? I don't know what about you makes me want to buy your makeup. Like, you've never talked about like your concealer or your favorite foundation. You know, like I just had a color correcting scandal. I could easily go and like make color correctors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so funny. Color.
Like,
Scandal.
and I was thinking about it, but the barrier to entry is so high. And in the foreseeable, like in the long run, it's just not worth it to me
Yeah.
at the moment. And
Yeah.
makeup is it's such a hit or miss to get into. I enjoy doing it. I don't know if I would enjoy producing it.
Well, you made the right decision with vintage
Yeah,
watch.
for sure.
Thank you.
If I ever do a clothing line or like merchandise, I would want to do it not for the fans, for everybody. Like you said, like merch, it's for the fans only. That's who buys them. But if you're trying to, I would want it to be more like a clothing line. Like, and actually sit there and design and like make it something that I'm really, really proud of. Not just like, oh, here's a gift from me for being my fan. You know?
Yeah, like for me, like with my own watch brand, I would never sell a watch that I personally would never wear, which is kind of like how I stay true to my, in a way, like ethics or morals or whatever, because then I'm just appealing to random people. I think what we just talked about is like how businesses are starting to change, especially like smaller businesses, like influencer run small businesses. They revolve mostly, they're not always about what the consumer wants anymore. Where, as you know, most businesses, they're always about what the consumer wants. It's more about just what we want, and if other people share that same demand, then so be it. Cool. You have like your consumers right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
You
a
can
niche.
tell when someone has like a drop shipping business. You can tell.
Oh yeah,
When
for sure.
Express or Alibaba or whatever. It
I
died
don't
down
think because
a lot.
nothing can compete with authenticity. You really, especially if you're an influencer, you gotta build like your most authentic self on your platform so that you can get the people that you want to support you. Like because you would rather have like a smaller number of loyal fans than a large number of fans who don't care about what you're, or not even fans, just exposure, and they don't even really care about what you're working on.
I did enjoy our talk about the different sides of like social media, comparing like influencers and content creators to like archive pages, and like the differences in like data and analytics and like what skill sets go into it, and even like the community part, which that took me by like surprise. I thought it would be more supportive than it was in the archive community, but I guess like the staying anonymous part plays a big part in that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this a lot. This was fun.
But yes, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciated your input.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Archivist. I'm Rage, and I'm here with...
I'm Saint, and today our guest is...
Mina. My name is Mina Hasan.
Hi, welcome.
Hello.
And just to give like a brief kind of explanation of what this episode's going to be about, it's going to be talking about kind of the different sides of social media in terms of content creation, influencer, and archive pages, and the difference between them, like regarding like the community support, networking, skill set, and like versatility and skill set, and just stuff like that. So yeah.
I guess you wonder where I've been. I searched to find the love within.